Thank you. And first, I so appreciate you moving forward. I did that because it's so much easier for me to teach if you are close, but also to remind us of something that occurs in intermediate and junior high and high school, and that is the kids often come in and sort of line the peripheral as far away from you as possible, as if to announce, my body is here, but expect no more. And so the research on junior high, middle school, high school is that children, even at your level, should have assigned seats so that you can get them as close as possible. So I honor you for that. So we know that good instruction is interactive at all levels. I say something, you say something, I write something, you write something, I do something, you do something, I say something, you say something, I do something, you do something. It never can be I say something, 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 see you tomorrow. Is it possible, even in your wonderful school district, that some kids could cognitively check out yes or no, everyone? Yes, okay? And so I believe it's even possible that some of your thoughts could go somewhere else today. So I'm going to do the same active participation I would do if I taught in your junior high, your middle school, your high school. And first, when there are answers that are very short, I will have you say these together. I'll ask a question, I'll put up my hands. This says think, don't blurt, and then when I lower my hands, you'll say the answer. For example, what month is it, everyone? It is March. But you know, there's many times in secondary ed where we are doing a quick review and the answers are short and the same, and we could have people say it together. So if I am teaching, let's say, 7th grade English and say, let's do a quick review of literary terms, looking up here. So when the author gives us a hint about what's going to happen later, think of, don't say it yet, but think of the literary term. For the people who aren't in this field. And it is what, everyone? Foreshadowing. So when I have answers that are short and the same, I will have them say it together. But most of the work that you do are answers that are long and different. And so what we're going to do here is have you share answers with a partner. You're number one, this is your partner number two. You're number one, partner number two. You're number one, partner number two. So everybody at your table get a partner. Give yourself the numbers 1 and 2 and go. Perfect. Everybody turn and look at your partner. And raise your hand if your number is 1. And raise your hand if you're a 2. And raise your hand if you're a 1. And raise your hand if you're a 1. Oh, see, I caught you. All right. So now, in every single class at secondary level, I'd always have partners. But you do have to have a designation, because could someone dominate the partnership? Yes or no, everyone? Yes. Absolutely. So I need to be able to say, 1's tell your partner, 2's tell your partner. And I'm particularly careful of having the students share answers with their partner before I call on them. First name? Delsa. Yeah, because if I'm teaching along and go, Delsa! Well, it did make you attentive. But the problem is, it affords you no opportunity to think, no opportunity to rehearse your answer. If I would say, 1's tell your partner, then 2's tell your partner, and then I called on you, you would have been afforded thinking time, you would have been afforded rehearsal time, and also feedback from your partner. When your answer is incorrect, she is going to gently correct you. When she has a different perception, she's going to share it. When she doesn't even know the question, or you don't know the question, she'll inform you. So when I call on you, the quality of answer goes way up. And I think that secondary students really deserve our respect in giving them a chance to think and rehearse the answer by first sharing it with their partner before we call on them. Well, so I got the schedule of what the language arts teachers have been working on, which is, as stated in the Common Core standards, argumentation. But we were working in grades 6th through 8th grade, so I'm going to have the high school people make some assumptions beyond that on the area of argumentation. Now, we started that research before the Common Core state standards, when we still called it persuasive. So we just have to get like the new language. In elementary, persuasive is called opinion. At the middle school and high school, it's referred to as argumentation. But if I use the word persuasive, we'll go with the flow. And we found a number of findings that have been validated in other findings, so I'm going to share those with you today. And so you have a PowerPoint and you have parallel examples. Going over to slide number 3. Check your partner, see if they have the right handout out. This is good. And so, when we look at the Common Core state standards, this is wording that comes right from those standards that you've already analyzed. That the arguments, which they called argumentation or arguments or persuasive or opinion, is a reasoned and logical argument. Right there, even at high school, we have a challenge. Reasoned and logical. It is demonstrating that you have a position and you are trying to convince someone of your position. And it is, in terms of the genre, I could write a argumentation in terms of an essay. Now, one of the things that our research project did was to try to look at what do we know about good instruction in general, and how does that apply to teaching writing, even at the secondary level? So we took big principles of explicit instruction and found that they most definitively applied. So we're going to look at each of them, and then I want you to be thinking, well, how would this make a difference in terms of what I am doing? And the first one is that writing an essay is a very complex task. And raise your hand if you teach 6th or 7th graders. Okay, and if I just said, watch me write a whole essay, this would lead with 6th and 7th graders to cognitive overload, literally. And all of us have experienced cognitive overload. So much information coming at us that we can't really process it. Raise your hand if you work with special ed kids, either students in Tier 2 or Tier 3. And they also would need to have it broken down so that there was essay hope. Now, because one of our studies was done with Tier 2 students, I'm going to share with you how we broke it down, not so that you'd have to do it this way, but to show our special ed teachers and our 6th and 7th grade teachers how much you might have to do. For example, hop over here to slide number 6. And this is the Common Core statement of the goal, the outcome, and see the thing that I'm having to constantly remind people of is that all the Common Core standards do is say by the end of the year you should be able to do this. It does not tell us how to break it down to get there, nor does it tell us the foundation skills that are necessary so you could access that. It just says by the end of the year you will be able to do this. So there is the outcome measure, and it says that it's the same wording almost exactly in 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, that they will be able to write an opinion piece on topics or texts supporting a point of view with reasons and information. And then what they do is they describe it. Now this is important to note because they don't break it down, but they describe what they're looking for. Now why do you want to be attentive to this? It's because this is what your district is, or your state is actually involved in a consortium to design the assessment. And there's 2 big consortiums in the United States. One is called PART and one is called SMARTER. Well, you were smarter, you joined the SMARTER group. And so there are many states writing the different assessments that are going to be used in 2014 if they can get it done and field tested in your own district. And they are using the description of what to look for to come up with the rubrics that they're going to use. So you really want to attend how they describe it. So they say that these students should have an introduction that tells the topic and gives the opinion and introduces a organizational structure, and that they would have logical reasons and it would be supported by facts and details. And that they would have transition words, therefore, in addition, and that they would have a conclusion. Okay? And so basically we're saying what the end result would be, and this is what we would be looking for. Well, when we went to teach students, we found we had to break this down. And this, I just showed you the one that is the maximum breakdown that we had to use with Tier 2 students that struggled in the area of writing. And so looking over on 7. And so here's one thing we found that was somewhat interesting, is that when we had the kids plan their essay, we found that oftentimes the problem we thought was going to be getting them to have a plan, to pick the opinion, to come up with the reasons, and then get the supportive details, get a plan. But we actually found the more troubling part was making a transcription from the plan to connected discourse. So to make it so that they were more successful, we gave them the plan. We said, here is your opinion. Okay, it's not your opinion, but go with it. Here is your opinion, and here are the 3 reasons, and here are the details. And then we transcribed that into a paragraph that would go in the body. And we took the next one and transcribed it, and then the next one and transcribed it, so that the burden was reduced. So all they had to think about was the transcription part, not the planning part. Then we went to the second section where we worked on planning. So we gave them a topic and a position, and they had to come up with the reasons, and then they had to generate details that would go with that reason, and then write that paragraph up. But notice that in the first 2, all we're doing is writing bodies of essays. We are not writing introductions, we are not writing conclusions. So we're just practicing. You have an opinion, here's your reason and detail, reason and detail, reason and details. Now write 3 paragraphs that go with it. Then when they learned that, we went back and taught them how to write an introduction. And I will tell you from our research, children do best writing any essay by writing the body first, and then go back and add the introduction and the conclusion. Much better than starting with the introduction. Consistently, we found that, and other studies have found exactly the same thing. So write the body, then you know what you want to have in the introduction. So we taught them how to write an introduction. We taught them to grab the attention of the reader, to state their opinion, and then give a preview of their reasons in the introduction. And then we wrote, for those bodies we'd already written, we wrote 1 introduction, then 2 introduction, then 3 introduction, then 4 introduction, until they wrote like really good introductions. And then we went to teaching them how to write a conclusion. And we taught them that the conclusion needed to wrap it up. And that when they wrapped it up, that they needed to either summarize the essay, or they needed to call for action, or they needed to say what is going to happen if we don't take action, or one of those, 2 of those ideas together. And so we taught them to wrap it up. And only after that, after writing 1 essay, 2 essay, 3 essay, 4, 5 essay, 6 essay, 7 essay more, did we then go to having them do the whole thing. So this is just a reminder that will some of our kids need this broken down a little bit so that they could obtain this skill? Yes or no, everyone? And basically it'll be more in 6th and 7th grade than in high school, more in Tier 2 than Tier 1, and a lot more in Tier 3 than Tier 2 if they're going to gain it. So the first thing we found is that we needed to break it down. Now I'll just tell you a story that went along with this. When we did this instruction, we taught these students these hand gestures as a reminder of the steps that your first paragraph has to grab the attention of the reader. It has to state your opinion and preview the reasons. And then in the body, you have to give a reason and detail, reason and detail, reason and detail. And then in your conclusion, you have to wrap it up, which I will use last week with high school seniors who were in desperate need of a reminder. So the first big idea that we thought is, oh, maybe we're going to have to break this down depending on the group, depending on whether they are tier 1, 2, or 3, and the answer was absolutely. What else did we learn as we were doing this research? Well, one of the things that we compared was 2 methods at the secondary level. Okay, good. And one is to just assign. Write a persuasive essay, bless you. Write another persuasive essay, bless you. Write another persuasive essay, bless you. To like teaching. We actually found that instruction helps. That's why they still call us Woo Teacher. That actually teaching the kids how to write an introduction, teaching them how to write the body, teaching them how to write a closure made a huge difference. And so just practicing. All practice does is makes permanent. It never makes perfect. So we found that instruction made a difference. But I want you to highlight this one because this is the major variable that improves students' writing, and it is feedback. I'm going to spend some time on this because I believe this is one of the challenges. I mean, there are 3 high school teachers I've already found with stacks of paper that came with them because it's so time-consuming they can't waste a moment. That if there is like 5 minutes between, they're like getting out another essay and grading it. And yet, the feedback makes a significant difference. There are many ways that we can do feedback. And we really need to talk about this because here's what one study found. If you felt that you always needed to give that quality of feedback and you're hoping to have a life, the end result is that teachers reduce the amount of writing that occurred. And it is the amount of writing that coupled with the feedback that is going to make the best writers. So what we need to do is we need to look at this so we can hold constant the amount of practice that they get and give feedback that is more reasonable. Okay, so let me just share some possibilities. One possibility is much of the feedback could be done as the students are writing in class. And so that I am constantly walk around, look around, talk around. Short, not a long time. And we would praise students, we would encourage them. Good paragraph, write some more. Write more. As well as correct any errors that we see. The next one is a study that was just accomplished last year by Steve Graham at Vanderbilt, and this study was, would the students profit from focused peer feedback as much as from teacher feedback? And they actually found, yes, if it was very highly focused, the students could benefit tremendously from peer feedback. Okay? Highly focused. If you just say, write anything you want on it, then you have revolution in your classroom. But it could be something like this. Today we are looking at the body of the essay, and every paragraph has to have a strong reason and related details. And so watch me edit this. I'm going to underline the sentence that gives the position, and then I'm going to underline the reasons so that I can check to be certain that every paragraph has a reason and details. Now, exchange papers with your partner, get out your pencil, no pens, and you're going to do the same thing, and then you'll have time to verbally tell them about it. Very, very focused feedback. So that they could give that feedback to their partner, but we have to model it. Now, I think that given that research that we should be using a lot of highly focused peer feedback. If the students can gain something from it by us modeling it, and then they are doing it. Another possibility, and I didn't put it up here, but we can add it, and that is group feedback. So they have turned them in and you have looked at them and you notice a universal challenge. Maybe the universal challenge is that in their introduction they did not preview the reasons for their opinion, and thus it's more difficult for people to understand. And so you have feedback to the entire group. Now, the next one comes from a whole series of essays and research projects that found it was useful often if you had a long rubric that you would just be giving feedback on a small amount of that rubric. Okay? Now, I want to take a moment while we're right at that point and share with you how we are doing. This is just an idea, but it's working well in our study with language arts teachers, how we are adjusting the grading thing. So over the course of our research, the students did have to write many essays. And we knew that the amount of practice that they got was going to be directly related to the gains that they made, but that the amount of practice would make it very burdensome for being an English teacher. You sort of want to take up PE. And so you didn't have a lot of grading at night. True? I mean, this is the real honest truth, okay? So what we started doing is this. Let's say the students are going to write 1 essay, 2 essay, 3 essay, 4, and over a period of a number of weeks. And so what we did is we actually gave feedback on these essays that was very focused. So you're going to write this essay, you have the whole rubric, you're going to follow it, and then when the students were turning it in, we would say, and we're going to particularly focus on the intro. Did you have an introduction that grabbed their attention, that stated the opinion, that gave a preview of the reasons? And so the students would get a certain amount of points for completion, let's say 50 points for completion, and then they would get additional points for the introduction. So when we read those, we really honed in on doing massive feedback on the introduction. And then the next time they wrote one, we focused on the body, that there would be a reason and detail, that there would be connecting words and transitions. And so if you finished it, it was worth 50 points, and there was 20 points for our rubric examination of the body, and so forth. So we would have a limited rubric for the evaluation of these. But then the students would pick what they thought was their favorite essay out of those 4, and we're going to give the full evaluation on this one. And so it's much like a writer. You know, I've written many things, and some things I've never published, but then the ones that I do publish, I really edit. But here's what we found. Even here, many times we were getting like a first draft rather than a last draft. And I would suggest if you're going to look at it with a full rubric, that you want it as close to their excellence as possible. You do not want a rough draft, because then you are giving feedback that is way too demanding. So we required that they had 2 peers sign it that they had read it, and 1 adult. It could be someone on the staff, someone in the library, the custodian, a neighbor, email Dr. Archer. So now I'm Abby's validation. And so you get it as close as possible, and then we evaluated the whole thing. And that was worth a lot more points. But anyway, what we did was, we did not, and we explained it to kids, that you need to practice. You probably find that one of these essays is like your favorite, and you will get to really put work on that. But you are going to do it. You won't know what part of the rubric we're really going to attend to. It's worked well for our teachers to have this balance, give them feedback, and have the more practice that we need. Because one persuasive essay does not make you a persuasive essay writer. You need to write 1 essay, 2 essay, 3 essay, 4. But that is going to be time-consuming in the grading. Now, another thing that we're exploring is alternatives to all the comments on the paper. And so I'll share with you what we are now doing, and we've had many variations upon this. Now we sit down with the paper here and our iPod 2 with camera and say, "Hi, Abby. Abby, would you have your essay in front of you?" When I looked at the introduction, the thing that I thought was your great strength is right away I knew your opinion. And I also got an idea of your reasons. But Abby, what you need to do is reread this out loud, because there are some times where it simply doesn't make sense because you've not carefully reread it. So I want you to reread it. If there are words that shouldn't be there, then please remove them. Let's look at the third sentence, because that was a good example of that. So you have also and to. Pick one, don't use both, all right? Now, when I read your middle of your paper, and I'm going to use just the first paragraph as an example, because I expect you to do the others and email them back to me. So I took that one and gave you some written feedback, but let's talk about it. So we did it and emailed it to them. And the students were much more likely to watch this than read that. And so not only that, it was for us as teachers, it was easier. Just to do, I mean, it was easier and more entertaining and more interesting. And then we would hop it back to them, and then they would have to email it. So we need to look for ways, and you're saying, "Oh, but I don't have an iPad." Well, maybe your principal would have to get them. Raise your head, administrators. No. But we're looking for ways that we could give them more practice, and give them adequate feedback, but reduce the amount of it being so time-consuming. So I want you to take a moment and with your partner discuss this whole issue. What comes to mind for you that would allow more practice but get the feedback so it was still powerful but not so overcoming? And continue talking with your partner and your tablemates on this issue only until I say stop. So, you know, at your own school site, and as you do staff development, this issue is one we really need to address, because the end result is we know kids need practice, and one essay is not going to do it, and so we've got to find a way to handle the feedback aspect. I'm really enjoying the video. I find that it is so much interesting. I mean, the other is so punishing. It's a university instructor. Oh my goodness, you get 50 big projects, and you wanted to sell real estate. And so we've got to find ways to do this. So many of you said that you give constant feedback as they're working in class on it, which reduces then the amount of feedback that needs to be given in the end, and I totally celebrate that. This one, though, is one that I am concerned about. Now, Abby is now in the 8th grade, and this semester she wrote one essay. Last semester she wrote one essay in her language arts writing class. Is it possible that that may not be enough practice for an 8th grader to become facile in writing? Is that possible, yes or no? Yes, absolutely. So I had to email her teacher and say, let me send you a few references on judicious practice, because it is the amount of practice that students get in order to do it. Well, one of the areas that we found to be challenging, and let's just see if you find it to be challenging, is that not all students are totally motivated and saying, "Ooh, I get to write another essay. Ooh, I am so thrilled." Raise your hand if you've ever seen a little bit less motivation. Raise your hand if you've ever seen that, okay? So there is real importance of looking at the research on motivation for writing, because writing takes more sustained energy, more sustained attention than any other act within school. It takes a lot more sustained attention and sustained energy and motivation than does reading a novel, where the plot intrigues you and it carries you along. Even takes more motivation than doing the next problem in math, because it's just like one little problem, and you've got to write 22 pages for a happy teacher in high school. If you say an answer in class, it dissipates in the wind. But if you write it down, it can be read again and again and again. And is it possible that students might be more concerned about what is in print? Yes or no, everyone? Yes, hey? And so there is more anxiety with what we write. So let's look at the research. What does research tell us would make a difference? Well, the first one is, if I am going to be motivated to do something, the best prediction of motivation is what is called perceived probability of success. Perceived probability of success. If I believe I am going to do it and I'm going to be successful, then I'm going to be more motivated to do it. If I believe that I am going to do poorly at it, then I am even more resistant and less likely to jump on it. This is the number one predictor in all areas of life of your motivation. It's perceived probability of what, everyone? Success. So then we would have to do certain things to increase the probability of perceived probability of success. And there are a number of possibilities. One would be to teach it in such a way that you saying, ooh, I get that. So explicit instruction, breaking it down if the students need it, modeling it for them, anything we can do that sets them up for success. So our past success is going to be predictive of this. Special ed teachers, you have a special problem there because you have kids who've had fail, 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 and you have major perceived probability of failure. Another way that they could get perceived probability of success is knowing that other people could do it. So I want you just to take a moment in your own setting, and I want you to share two things with your partner. One, do you have any students with perceived probability of failure? And if so, what might be a useful concrete practices so that you could get them into a place where they had perceived probability of success? I will tell you, making the task really easy didn't work because only perceived probability of success that is on the cusp. It's going to take a little bit of energy for you to do it, but it's obtainable. If it's really easy, that will not change their attitude because they will know it's easy. So it does have to be at a level that's on the cusp. So share with your partner what you believe in your own setting you might do to increase perceived probability of success. So as I monitored, I heard, well, I can scaffold it so that they are successful. I could break it down into obtainable pieces so that they don't get cognitive overload. That would create that feeling of success. I can constantly honor them for the effort that they're putting in to show that their effort is what leads to success. It's not inherent. And I would also, one table said, I could use examples so that they know that this is obtainable by other peers. Well, the second area that is really critical in this, the area of writing, is that the interest in the topic made a difference. So picking topics for which they would have some interest would make a huge difference. So if I was working with students in persuasive writing and her essay was to keep or not to keep vending machines with candy at the school. True? I mean, that's what, okay, and so would perhaps vending machines at the school with candy be of any interest to high school people, yes or no? Yeah, I would think so. Well, the next thing is, not surprising, but the studies on secondary students show that even a little bit of choice increases their motivation. But here's the thing though, it needs to be narrow choice. Broad choice is not motivating. Pick any issue in our world today and write an essay. See, that's what college profs often made an error of doing, giving broad choice. But then you spend your whole semester trying to figure out, like, what issue do you like? And then less time on, like, writing. So you want to give narrow choice, not broad choice. So every time I teach a writing lesson, I got to think about this. What can I do to set them up for what, everyone? For success. With enthusiasm, everyone, for success. Being certain that the topic will be of some interest. Somewhat, everyone, some interest. and giving them not broad choice, but what, everyone? Narrow choice. Is it possible there could be a boring prompt on the state test? Yes or no? Yes. So I had to tell kids, read that prompt and pretend that it's interesting. Read it and immediately say, ooh, I get to write about this. Ooh, this is so good. Oh, God, they picked that one. Yay! We even practiced it. Well, now, when we look at the writing process, we can divide it into teaching kids the what and the how. And so any genre basically has these two parts. And so we are going to look at each of those with a persuasive essay, and we are going to look at what we need to do with the what and what we need to do with the how. So pop over to slide 14. Now, I was not able to ask this question beforehand, so you can help me out here. My hope is that for these major genre, that your district has been working on universal rubrics for like 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. So that would be my help, is that you might say, this is the rubric that we are going to use. And you certainly could look at it in terms of the 6 traits. And you're very familiar with this. Came out of the Northwest Regional Lab, those traits that we could have that were universal. When we look at the 6 traits, which you all know well, we first look at the, what, everyone? The ideas, and then we look at the organization, and we look at word choice, and we look at voice, and we look at fluency. I have always thought that was a poorly chosen term, because it isn't how fast you write your sentences, which the word fluency means rate. But what they really meant was fluency in terms of flow. Flow between the sentences, flow within the sentences, use of connecting words, everything that would allow it to flow. And that you would use, what, everyone? Conventions, okay? Now, first of all, we have many middle school, high school studies that show that if you are working on a new genre, to have you to attend to all of that simultaneously puts you immediately into cognitive overload. That you do much better if you will pick which aspects of this you're going to work on first. One thing that I often do when I have the great gift of working like in high schools, I will make the whole department come and bring their rubrics. And one of the things we found is some rubrics even require adults to do deep inferences in order to understand them. And we found that if the children can't understand the rubric, it made no difference in terms of their writing. They've got to understand it. So we worked a great deal on getting simple rubrics that would communicate to them. And we only worked on a portion of it, initially the organization part. With this, they had to have an example. And so we would guide them through analyzing that example. And I just want to share with you what that instruction would look like. So I'm going to model this as we did across our grades. So looking up here, so we're going to be working on writing persuasive essays, argumentation, and this is the initial rubric that we are going to use. And we are going to look at an example and analyze it. So you have an essay here that is an essay that is on should we have random drug and weapon searches of our backpacks, our book bags. And so everybody locating this page, and we are going to first read the introduction here, and then we're going to analyze it with the rubric. I'm going to read. When I stop, say the next word. So be ready. How would you like to forge through your computer or your bedroom drawers? Would you not feel? That is exactly how I feel when and search my backpack and locker with no. While I understand the danger of illegal and weapons on campus, I am more afraid of that search's cause. I know these policies come from a real concern for the and quality of our school campus, but I think that they will cause more problems than random searches, threaten personal, and erode a student's in the without solving the heart of the teacher talk. So closed practice is the one I most often use because they are more likely to participate. I never in a secondary class call on one child to read to the others. If that's a low reader, could they be embarrassed in front of their peers? Yes or no? And is it possible that some of the kids aren't paying attention to that student reading? Could that also happen? Everyone. Yes, okay? And so I will either read it with them or do the closed practice. I read stop and they say the word. So before we read the whole essay, we are going to examine this introduction against our rubric. And going back to the introduction, please read number 1 with me and go. Does the introduction grab the reader's attention? And I want you to underline grab. Later we're going to learn a strategy called grab that will help you write an introduction that grabs attention. So let's go back here and look at how this is done. My turn. How would you like a stranger to forge through your purse, your computer bag, or your bedroom drawers? Would you not feel violated? So there, the author of this essay is attempting to grab our attention so that we want to read the whole thing. So we are going to circle yes and go to number 2 and read it with me, everyone. Does the introduction tell the topic of the essay? So I want you to look at that first paragraph and I want you to underline what it appears that the whole essay is going to be about. And so find a word or two that tells what the topic is. Okay, looking back here. And so I'm going to bet that some of you underline random searches or searches. Raise your hand if that is what you also had. So did the author tell us right away what the topic was? Yes or no? Yes. So would we circle yes or no? Which one, everyone? Yes. And go to number 3 and read it. Does the introduction state the author's opinion on the topic? So does this author favor the random searches, yes or no? No, okay? And I want you to go back and see if you can find words that would indicate this author's position and underline it. Okay, looking back here. Now, I want to tell you why I'm doing this so carefully with you. Let's say that I had done this with you. I can then use this as the focused peer feedback because I've already modeled it with you. So then when you go to write an essay, I can say exchange it with your partner, get out the rubric, and the first thing you're going to do in pencil so it can be erased is you are going to see if they capture your interest. Then you're going to underline words that do the topic. Then you're underline a sentence that states the opinion so that I'm actually giving behaviors to the peers that they can use in their focused peer feedback. Got that? Because this made a huge difference, because if we had modeled it when we went through, and then when they wrote their first one, I modeled again how I could look at that with that rubric, and then the kids did the same thing exactly, and we did it piece by piece, but they could do exactly the same behaviors. Here's your topic, here's your opinion, but I don't see the reasons that previewed, so that we had it, so that the students could give very good feedback. Well, would it help to have an example? Yes or no, everyone? Yes, okay? So I'm always asked, like, where could you get good examples? Well, it's not difficult. Language arts books have examples. You could write examples. You could go online and get good examples. Within the Common Core state standards, they gave examples. On the website of your own State Department for Language Arts, they give examples. So you can find examples. But you can't just hand it to the student, even a student in an AP class with a rubric. Even as a college prof, I couldn't do that. We had to look at it with close reading of the example and the rubric to make a difference. So we start with what it is and the rubric we're going to use. And would you pop back to your PowerPoint and find slide 16. So we have taught the students what the genre looks like. We've given them an example, and we have a rubric, and we don't just hand it to them. We actually do close reading of it as required in the Common Core standards. We're doing close reading of it in relationship to that rubric. And the next thing that we want to do is guide them in using the writing process, which is one thing that these language arts teachers have like totally mastered. And there is in your room a poster somewhere. Raise your hand if there's a poster at your school of the writing process. And this would be their language. That there would be, what first, everyone? Planning and writing and revising, which would be the big picture, then editing down to details, and then rewriting, and then sharing or publishing. And so I utilized that language within the rest of this presentation, which we got down just to the verbs of plan, write, revise, edit, rewrite, and publish. And so let's just look at what we found helpful in terms of planning. One thing that we actually start teaching in 3rd grade is how to examine the actual prompts that you are given. And we teach this strategy. When you get a prompt or a reading assignment, you are going to tap, 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 tap. And T is for what, everyone? Topic. So you figure out what is the topic, but then you also consider A for what, everyone? Audience. So you ask yourself, what is the audience? Because in persuasive writing, it makes a difference. If I am writing this for people who have the same belief system, that's different than if they have entirely a different belief system. And I also have to think of P for what, everyone? Purpose. Now, this is actually very helpful when they get to the Common Core State Standard Test in 2014, because they're going to have a prompt, and they will need to have a way to consider it. What is the topic? Who is the audience? What is the purpose? The purpose is being either to convince, to inform, or to convey an event. Now, this is one that was studied in terms of motivation, and that is the issues. Would the kids have better essays if it was a real issue in our society or not? They did significantly better with real. And that puts you in the position, unfortunately, of having to consider what is politically correct at your high school or middle school or junior high to actually write essays on. So you have to think about that. I did include a list in your examples of essays that we used with 6th through 8th graders. And so if you will, pop over to page 9. And you probably have even better ones, but we had a long list so that we could select from them. And the topic is right there. Should we allow fast food restaurants? Should we have students who have done crime in juvenile or adult court? If you are cheating, should you be expelled? Should we have separate schools for boys and girls? Just examples so that you have them in case you need like a new topic if they're going to write a number of these. So we had a way of looking at the prompt, and we had real issues. But the next one I really want to seriously talk to you about because this one made a huge difference when we taught the students persuasive writing. So I could write a persuasive essay, and I could write all the reasons, the supportive details, just from my logical thinking and experience. That would be one way that I could write it. I could, on the other hand, write it by going out and doing evidence, collecting research, collecting evidence to strengthen my reasons. And so we found that if, and remember again, our study was students that were in 6th through 8th grade, we found that it was absolutely essential that we separate these two. That initially we would write essays where all you had to do was use your own logical thinking and your thoughts while we got down the organizational structure of it, and then we could collect evidence and add it. But when we tried to do both simultaneously, the cognitive overload was evident, and the students had significantly more problem. In fact, in the end, we found something that really worked well. We had the students write essays initially on topics we gave them of interest, for which they only had to pick a side, and then they had to use logical arguments, not necessarily evidence. And then a month later, then they had to write the same essay, but this time they had to write it with evidence. Okay, now I want to explain why we did this. It was fascinating to the kids because I'll just give you one example. This one of our topics we wrote on is, should we have curfews for teenagers, 9 o'clock weekdays, 10 o'clock on the weekends, okay? And they got to pick a side and write on it. Well, many of the children said, yes, we should have curfews. It will reduce teen crime. That was the first time. They just took it from logic and then expanded on it. But when we actually went out and looked at the research on teen crime, we found that teen crime was not happening late at night. No, teen crime almost always happens between 3 and 5 before parents get home. And so they learned right away, well, that argument isn't actually true when we use like, woo, evidence. And when we used it in high school, some kids argued we should have a curfew so that the kids are home and we don't end up with teen mothers and have pregnancy. But when we looked at the research on that question, they're not doing it late at night. They're doing it 3 to 5 when there's a bed available. And so, but the point here is that what the students are learning here is evidence counts. And that is something that we want people to understand and get that idea. We also found that we needed to scaffold the students in terms of organization. And so you're going to find in your handout a think sheet that we used for the essays. And I want you to look at page 8. This is an example of one that we used, where the students would look at the actual prompt and ask, what is the topic, what is the audience, what is the purpose, and then later what position they were going to take. And then they would come up with their major reasons, and it could have many more if it was a very long essay. Major reasons, and then what were the evidence or examples that they were going to incorporate into paragraphs that talked about that reason. And so we taught them to have a think sheet such as this. One thing we had to keep in mind is, how are we going to generalize this? And we did it by making it so simple that they could easily replicate it. So the students that are right now in this group, when they, after we faded this out, they would just write this on their paper. And so when they went to take the state test, they'd write down the topic, the audience, and the purpose, and their position, and reason A, reason B, reason C, and the details. And so they could easily just replicate the whole design on a piece of paper. But there is one more idea that recently has been researched that I find very fascinating. And we're often told to front load reading. And most of you teach writing and reading, and so you pre-teach vocabulary, you pre-teach background knowledge, you give a little indication of perhaps the theme. You don't tell them about the plot of the story, but you give them a little information. And then in content area classes, you introduce difficult vocabulary, you give them some background knowledge so that they have something on which to connect the information to. But basically, the same exact theme is now emerging in writing. So basically they found that what you know about a topic is going to dictate the quality of your essay. If you don't know anything about it, it's going to be a wimpy essay. It was very much related to the amount of front loading. Have we discussed it? Have you read about it? What have we done so that you have something to write about? If you have nothing to write about, then we're going to have some problem. So that teachers, you just have to spend some time front loading it with activities, with lectures, with articles, with movies, and so that they have some background knowledge. Well, we are going to now look at how we might go about filling in one of these, and I want you to grab one that's slightly different because I gave you more than one option here, and I want you to find page 6. In your handout that was a listing of possible topics, I want you to find number 1. So find and be on page 9. So you need page 6 and page 9. So I am going to take you through a little bit of what we found made a difference and then point out how we have altered our instruction based on our data that might give you some hints. So be my 8th graders. So we have already looked at persuasive essays, we've already looked at the think sheet, and today we are going to begin planning your first essay that you are going to write. And you have the writing prompt, and if you would, look at number 1. Read what is in parentheses, everyone together, and go. Fast food restaurants, okay? And then because not everybody read it, I would do what I've trained teachers to do, what we call a gentle redo. I didn't hear everyone. Let's go back. Don't shout. Read it in a normal voice, but please read it again, everyone. Fast food restaurants. And originally I just taught people when kids don't do something that is really important that you've taught them to do a redo. But then I noticed that sometimes, particularly at the secondary level, it was a irritable redo. And so then now we call it a gentle redo, gentle for the teacher, redo for the kids. Because you find this all the time. If I ask you to do something but don't act in concert with it as if I expect it, is it possible that they might not do it? Yes or no? Because here's the law of older kids. If something is optional, the students definitely go with not doing it. And so we have to be really careful that our actions and our words match. So students, we have a prompt here, and it is about fast food restaurants. We're going to read this, and then we will figure out tap, 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 the topic, the audience, and the purpose. So I'm going to read. When I stop, say the next word. In numerous community members are considering banning all fast chain. Decide if you agree with this suggestion or write an essay for adults in the community stating and justifying your position. With your own pen, please underline the topic. And so this is about fast food restaurants and the audience. Locate the audience and underline it. And the audience were children or adults? Which one? Adults, okay? And we also have the purpose. And it really gives you an idea that you're not just informing, but you are, since you have to state and justify your position, it's not to inform, but to convince. So let's go back here, and in our handout, I want you to write down the topic, and I'm just going to put fast food. I'll remember it's restaurants, the audience, and the purpose is to persuade, but don't check pro or con. And we are going to write an essay, and this time we're just going to do it by thinking logical arguments. Later we will write similar essays where we'll collect evidence. But this time we're just going to use logical thoughts. And on a piece of paper, would you please make a T-chart? And on this side you're going to write pro, and here you're going to write con. And pro means that you believe that, yes, we should ban fast food restaurants. And con means, no, we love our fast food restaurants, and so we don't want to ban them. Being my students, we are going to come up with arguments, and first we're only going to work on yes, we should ban. Even if you don't agree with it, you're going to come up with good reasons that you could write a paragraph or two supporting to go along with your opinion that yes, we should ban fast food restaurants. So my turn first. So I say, why might I want to ban fast food restaurants? And I'll tell you one thing, even as I come into this community where you've not banned them, that you have beautiful architecture, and the fast food restaurants do not blend easily with your beautiful, beautiful architecture. So I think that one reason is they reduce the natural beauty of a community, particularly a community with a long history as Logan. So they reduce the beauty. That might be one of my major arguments why we should ban fast food restaurants. Now on your paper, would you honor me by putting your first name at the top? And on your own, not with your partner, I want you to write down other reasons that you might say we should totally ban fast food restaurants, where you agree or not. So continue writing ideas until I say stop and go. So here were some of the major reasons that were introduced as I monitored. And some of you wrote down, well, it will reduce the beauty of our community because of the painting, the structures, the signs, the architecture. Kayleen said that it puts our health in danger. And Joyce said it leads to obesity. And Brian said that if we didn't have these fast food restaurants, there would be more business for local businesses and local restaurants. And Sarah suggested that because we're eating in those places, that there is less family time. And if we were eating at home, there would be more family time, more bonding time, and be more consistent with our family values. And Lisa suggested there is so much packaging and thus so much litter that is produced by a fast food restaurant. And Shaylin suggested that also it might be, as Larry said too, it might be expensive, and the students could save, or the family could save money by eating at home. Larry's concerned it just becomes like a teen hangout. They just like hang out there. And Kathy says while they're there, they're eating very, very poorly. And it may even become a habit, as one member of the table said. So we have a lot of reasons why we might say, let's get rid of the fast food restaurants. Would you flip over to your next page, your next column? And even if you don't believe this, that we should keep them, you're going to come up with reasons for it. And so let's see, I think my turn first. I just read on the airplane coming here, and it was a study on value-added teachers. Teachers that they had the same demographics in their classroom but made significantly higher gains in language arts. And what were the attributes of those teachers? And one thing that was a major attribute is they modeled. They modeled how to write an introduction, how to take notes. They modeled everything. But what was fascinating is that they modeled not just big things, but little things. So like if I'm going to have you write down ideas, I'm going to say my turn first, and I'm going to model it. And have you ever noticed that every time you choose not to model it, you've just chosen to model it many times because you didn't get it, you didn't get it, you didn't get it, you didn't get it. I find that little things, even if I wanted the kids to take a piece of paper and I said, please grab a piece of paper and fold it in half. See? Right away, I'm going to have people saying, well, what way do you want us to do it? The hamburger, the hot dog way, the diagonal way, what way? It just saves a lot of time for you to say, get out a piece of paper, and you're going to fold it in half for 2-column Cornell notes. Now there is absolutely no possibility that you don't get it. Well, there's a little possibility, like you're not paying attention, but certainly I've reduced it. But a lot of our frustration comes because we didn't model it, and we said, oh, I am teaching high school advanced students, I can assume it, and suicide will kill you. So I say, don't ban those fast food restaurants. And one reason that I don't want them banned is that we have a country that is based on personal choice. And I don't want anyone else choosing the kinds of things that I have to eat at home, that I have to eat in local restaurants. I want to, to be able to slip into McDonald's. I want to go. I can't even think of another name of them, another one. And so I want that personal choice. So again, if your name is not on your paper, please put it there. And I want you to continue writing down reasons if you were going to argue, nope, we should not ban them. And continue writing down ideas until I say stop and begin. So as I went around the room, here were some of your arguments, and one was that sometimes you just need a quick meal alternative, Jan said. And Carol and a number of you said it provides jobs for teens. Also for elderly, those are the two populations that they try to get. Jen said, well, it's like better than going to 7-Eleven. Okay, possibly. And Kimmy said, if you're wise, it can be less expensive. And Robin said, well, it's responsibility training for teens who might have their first job there. Sherry and I were talking about the fact that fast food restaurants are often major supporters of charities. In fact, I know the facts on that one because we did this one in terms of evidence, and they are, of all businesses, the #1 contributors to charities. First of all, I am certain that there's not a person here that does not know Think, Pair, Share. And raise your hand if Think, Pair, Share is a strategy in teaching that you've heard many times. And someone, as I came over here, said, well, you're just using Think, Pair, Share, and brainstorming. Yes, I am. But let's just look at what I did to make it work better. And so did I have you think, or did I have you think and record? Which one, everyone? Think and record. Because if I have you just think, I have absolutely no way to monitor it. I'm not able to come over and say, hadn't considered that, can you expand? Honey, where are you? You know, so instead I had you write it down. And I will repeat with more clarity the law of older kids. If you cannot hold them accountable, they believe it is optional. If you cannot hold them accountable, they believe it is what, everyone? Optional. So I had you write it down. Then I had you pair up. And is it possible that you have some students who don't actually listen to their partner? Could it happen in the Logan area? Yes or no, everyone? Yes, okay? So I asked you to write down some of your partner's best ideas. And at 4 or 5 times a week in every period, I say, would you tell me what your partner's best idea was? What was your partner's best idea? Of all your partner's ideas, which one was best? Would students get the idea they should listen to their partner? Yes or no, everyone? Yes. And it really makes a difference. Not only that, if you were my partner, I could say, well, remember, it's her idea if it's stupid. And so it is the risk-free sharing because, so the pair part, I had you record your partner's best ideas, and I would, throughout the week, have you share them. But then, let's just look at the share part. Most teachers go around the room and they say, what's your idea, and your idea, and your idea, and your idea, and your idea? Could someone get bored in that pursuit? Yes or no, everyone? Yes, and it will be us, the teachers. And so, instead, what I did, because I have a dot camera, which is the best friend of anyone teaching language arts, I just took a piece of paper and I wrote down your idea and your name, your idea and your name, your idea and your name. If you just took that one thing away from today, it makes a difference. If I had an idea and a name up on the screen, is it possible that a reluctant secondary student, upon seeing their idea and their name honored on the screen, that they might be a more willing participant, yes or no? So there's never a time that I brainstorm that I'm not doing this, carrying this around, because I want those shadow children, those passive children, those shy students, those English language learners, those included special ed students who have brilliant ideas but aren't sharing them, to be honored with those ideas. So something as simple as think, pair, share, we can take to a much higher place. What we found was particularly difficult at this point. And so be my students, you have this paper in front of you, and we have looked at major reasons for, yes, let's get rid of fast food restaurants, or no, we should keep them. And we have looked at reasons on both sides of the coin. And I want you to now circle which one you would intend to write your paper on. You get to pick either I'm for banning them or not. So circle either pro or con. Do it now on your paper. Circle it so I can see it when I come around. Okay. And I'm going to circle pro. So I am going to write about pro. And here are some possible reasons for me wanting to get rid of the actual fast food restaurants. And I say to myself, one reason I might want to get rid of them is because they are unhealthy. Now, Kayleen suggested lack of healthy foods, and Joy said it's contributing to obesity. But these are so related that I could couple them together under one reason, that fast food restaurants often are unhealthy. for all of our citizens. So I'm going to use, I can come back with the details about obesity underneath that, but I'm going to have one for the individual that they are unhealthy. Then I can talk about fats, and I can talk about sugar, and I can talk about sodas, and I have so much to talk about. Brian said, well, it would help people go back to local restaurants. And that might be a good detail in a paragraph, but I'm going to have a hard time writing a whole bunch about just that idea. So I say to myself, I do believe that they would be very helpful for our community. If they were gone, it would create more beauty in our community, give more business to community, get rid of the litter. Oh, a lot of these details will go under that. So I say to myself that another reason I want to get rid of them is that they harm our community. Oh, and then I've got some details I could do. Well, let's see what else is important. I liked the idea that if we were home eating dinner, that we would have more family time, which is a definite family value of us. So now we're just stopping, maybe we're just even driving by and not even sitting in one place. We're just picking up the fries and going to separate rooms. I believe it's also could be like harming the roots of our family. Oh, I like that. Now I have a way of organizing this. Harm to the community, harm to the individual, and harm to the family. Woo, woo, woo. And all these details that I really thought were important, I could put under that. So I'm modeling how to get something that is a reason that is strong enough that you could write a paragraph or two or more on, not just a little minute detail. You have circled one of these. And you can either, you're going to pick, we're just going to write on 3 what we think are the most important reasons, and you can either circle it because it's one you already have, or you can combine others, or you can reword one. But I want you to come up with 3 big reasons, and it's on your paper. I'll be coming around to monitor. Excellent, because as I went around, 3 people said, well, when we went to brainstorm pros and cons, I switched the one I was going to write on. That's why we had the kids always decide after we had the reasons, because many of them changed. Okay, continue to be my students. You are going to, right here in the reasons, you are going to write the reasons, and I want you to think about the order, because this will be your first reasons, your second, and your third. So I say to myself, I'm writing for pro, oops, please check that. And I am writing, it could harm our community, the individual, and our family. I might start with the largest group, the community, to the family, to the individual, or I might start with the more obvious one, the health challenges if we had fast food restaurants. And so I'm going to start with they could be harmful to individuals. I can have so much I can say about that. And that in many ways they could be harmful to our community, making our community. Oh, someone suggested, you could talk about the traffic jams even as you go through Logan. And so harmful to the, I changed my mind. Individual to family and then community. Oh, that has better flow from the individual person to the group of people to all of us. Harmful to the community. Woo, oh, so good. Teacher talk. I also want you to notice something that seems weird, but when I'm modeling, I often will do self-talk that's reinforcing. Ooh, that's a good idea. Oh, that one really works. Ooh, that flows. Ooh, that's a good idea. That's because of what we know about self-talk that students are doing. That students that are very facile in something are often talking to themselves in that way. Oh, that's good. Wow, I really did well there. Oh gosh, I really expanded on that. Oh, good job. But children that are having a lot of difficulty, they have a whole nother scenario happening in their head. They're like, ah, shit, I can't write an essay. Why am I having to write an essay? I can't believe I have to write an essay. God, why did they assign so many essays? I mean, I wrote one last year. Oh, God, I can't believe I have to write another essay. I don't know what this would be. That's what they're thinking. Is it possible that kind of self-talk could reduce their performance? Yes or no, everyone? Absolutely. All through life it could. So I'm modeling the kind of self-talk I want to have them running through their heads because it makes a difference in terms of their perceived probability of success, thus their motivation. So after you've filled those in, then I just want you to write a statement of your position. And so, for example, my position is we should ban all fast food restaurants. So fill in those and your position. Now, I'm obviously modeling this with a good deal of scaffolding, and I would, after we did many essays, I would gradually fade that out. Some of you would say, you know, my students don't need that much initial scaffolding. But what we often do is we assume too little at the secondary level. And thus we have a lot of kids who are failing that don't get it, that don't know what we're doing. So I model quite a bit initially and then fade it. So my turn. Now we are going to explain this in a paragraph that is going to have details. And so my turn first. I want to just write down notes that I'm going to then expand in the paragraph where I'm going to argue that fast food restaurants and the food they produce are harmful to individuals. And so I might start by saying that the food is simply unhealthy. For example, the amount of fat that is on it. The type of oils that are cooked in it, the fact that there is fried food, and the amount of sugar. And I also want to talk about how eating these kind of foods could become very habitual and lead to definitely being overweight and obesity, which could cause many health risks and diseases. What? Pink slime, I learn something new every day. Gosh, all right, well, obviously there's much I could say. So I wrote down notes here, and I want you to do the same and each of your columns. So continue writing until I say stop and go. You got one too. Okay, thank you very much, and I so thank you for your participation. But now, if we filled this in, is it possible that that could help scaffold us writing an essay? Yes or no, everyone? Yeah. Absolutely. So we've given them away. Now, I just want to suggest another reason. Raise your hand if you do teach English language arts. Okay? Now, we always talk about having children write across the content areas. When we did our research on persuasive writing, we did not do all the persuasive essays in the English class. They had to write a persuasive essay in social studies, they had to write one in science, they had to write one across the curriculum. But the teachers, do you think those teachers whose area is not English language arts did better when we gave them a think sheet that the students had already practiced using, yes or no? So I want to encourage you to use something like this, then teach it to the content area teachers so that they could increase the amount of writing, but they would have a way of doing it, a method that we're going to do. Even if you don't use this think sheet and use something else, teach it to your kids, do a number of essays, introduce it to the other teachers. Well, along with this, we taught the students that when they wrote the introduction, that they needed to grab the attention of the readers, state their position, and give the preview of the reasons. So basically, this becomes the plan for the introduction. And then that they would expand on this with the topic sentence. There are many ways that fast food restaurants have been harmful to individuals and will continue to be harmful. And then listing all, not listing, but writing sentences that would contain that, and then this, and then this. And then they would wrap it up. But we really had to take time to teach kids how to grab the attention, and then at the end, how to wrap it up. So I would like you to look in your materials to page 13. There you see the strategies that we used. So we used T for topic, A for audience, and P for purpose. But in the introductions, where we wanted them to grab the attention of the reader, we gave them a strategy that would tell them how they might grab the attention of the reader. That they could use a gutsy statement or question, they could provide a relevant example, they could appeal to emotions, or they could give background knowledge that would grab the attention of the reader. So here you have a partial introduction that is given for an essay on cell phones. Cell phones should be banned from all school campuses in the district. When students have cell phones at school, the educational process is interrupted and learning is compromised. See? And then here are ways that you could get the attention of the reader using our strategy called grab. First, you could use a gutsy statement or question and go, "Are you fed up with cell phones ringing while you are teaching? Well, I've heard too many rings as I try to concentrate on your lectures." Okay? Or they could use a relevant example and reading that with me and go, "As I walk through our school, cell phones are everywhere, attached to children's ears as they walk the halls and eat in the cafeteria, ringing during class lectures and assemblies, vibrating audibly during tests." So giving some examples. Or another would be a direct appeal to emotion. And read it with me. "Ring, ring, 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 ring. Are you going to let these tiny cell phones destroy my education? Please help me." I thought these were quite clever, actually. Obviously, not as clever as you think. Going to your next page. Another possibility is background knowledge, and reading it with me, everyone. In the past 20 years, there has been a movement away from landline phones to mobile cell phones. Almost all adults and 75% of all teens have a cell phone. As a result, phone conversations, once relegated to the living room or kitchen, can be heard in restaurants, movie theaters, stores, churches, and now schools, destroying their academic climate. So what we found is that many students didn't know how to capture the attention of the reader. And so we wanted to not give them one way, because if you give them one way, like you model it with a question, will their essay always start with the question, yes or no, everyone? Yes, so we gave them a number of options. And so you could have a gutsy statement, you could have a relevant example, you could appeal to emotion, or you could have background knowledge. And we had to train them by giving them examples. But they got it right away, and it made a huge difference in the quality of their essays if they had something to grab the attention. In terms of conclusions, see if you've noticed this. Many of the students simply wrote a summary, or you could respond to a question. Another possibility is to ask for action. or we could predict an outcome. So they could either write a summary, or they could respond to a question, call for an action, or predict an outcome. And we use the mnemonic device of wrap, so they could wrap it up. So actually, you'll notice right away that the fact that we have been working on this project for so long has really informed us some critical things. Here was a question that was really interesting. I have students who I know have been working on it, but they don't turn it in. Now raise your hand if you've ever had that. Okay, there's some good studies on this. Why do children not turn in completed or partially completed work? And this was the explanation in those studies. When I turn it in and I get a bad grade, it shows I'm stupid. If I don't turn it in, could have been many reasons why it didn't get in, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm stupid. So the students would rather not turn it in. Isn't that fascinating? I mean, to me, that's fascinating. You don't look fascinated. Woo. That was one question. What could you do? And so if you have kids not turning in things, if you are constantly moving around the room and monitoring, you could even give intermittent points that led up to the big point so that it would be valuable to turn it in. So I'm looking here, and today as I monitor, I'm just seeing, did you actually finish your introductions? And as I come by, I'll be writing down the points for introductions. And that not only keeps the kids online, because many of them too procrastinate. And so they're waiting till the last moment to do their essay, and this is getting them to do parts over time. But the student has already gotten 25 points because, yes, I did that introduction, I did that body, I did the brainstorming, is more likely to turn it in. I've had a really delightful time, and I hope that some of the findings that we're finding in our field testing might inform what you are doing. But if I was to say the big idea, if we want kids to write well, we have to do what research would tell us in all areas. Teach them how to do it and provide an adequate amount of practice with feedback. It is that teach, practice, feedback in every area at our middle school and high school that's going to make the difference. So go teach them well. We will send a copy to each of the principals so you can ask the principals, ooh, I really want an electronic copy of that. Go teach them well. Enjoy spring in the valley.